Does it work? I hope so. Okay, good day. My name is Martin Schweiger and I'm a patent attorney in Singapore, and I'm also a power lifter. I take you with me on my daily walk. Today is Thursday, the 5th of June 2025. And it's about 1:30 p.m. afternoon. I have a meeting at 3 p.m. online, so I have about 45 minutes or so for my walk, which is more than enough, because all what is required is that I do about 10,000 steps per day. And today is Thursday, and Thursday is my training day for strength training, resistance training. I'm preparing for a powerlifting competition in 5 weeks from now. Goal is that I get below 100 kg body weight. 95 would be best. Part of that plan is that I do a fasting 2 days per week. Oh. The battery is empty. Oh, yo. What happened here? Oh shit. Battery is empty. I don't understand, because I charged it. But probably the helper has switched the power plug, the power outlet off. So, yeah, need to see that, how far that carries. Better balance this. Yeah. This gimbal is not really, I mean, it's not bad, but it comes with its limitations. So, yeah, today walking can be shorter because I do my strength training later, and that gives me extra walking to the gym, plus coming back of maybe 5,000 steps. So all what I need to do is now just clock the 5,000 steps that usually done in half an hour. Good enough. Also good enough for reporting about the 2 fasting days. So my fasting days are always Tuesday and Wednesday. Tuesday I started, in the morning, midnight when I go to bed, which is my bedtime, or 1 a.m. And on Tuesday morning I set the baseline, weighing myself in. I had 105.8 kg body weight, but I'm full with glucose, my body full, watered and everything. So that was Tuesday morning, 105.8 kg. And then during the water fasting days, I can drink as much water, tea and coffee, unsweetened of course, and without milk, as I like. So quite comfortable. And I went into ketosis, where my body was tapping into my body fat. At 2 p.m. already, I was in full ketosis. I could measure that because I measure my ketones in the blood with a finger pricking test, and then I measure acetone in my breath with a breath analyzer, and I could see I was in ketosis. And also I took out the old test strips, and that was quite remarkable because my test strips showed that I have ketones in my urine, and that's something that disappeared, or was disappeared in April before I went to my 5 weeks long Germany trip. And that's also what I found out. But what you need to know is that during my fasting period, I enter my measured data, body measurement data, constantly into my AI, which is a trained GPT on OpenAI. And it gives me analysis and encouragement and tips what I could do. It's very, very, very useful. And so I grow a data set over 2 days. I measure not only the ketones in my blood and in my urine, and also in the acetone in my breath, but I also measure my body weight, of course, my body composition, which means the body fats under subcutaneous and visceral fat, and the muscle in the different areas of the body. I have a bathroom balance that measures that quite good. So it's not useful for day to day, but if you take weeks or even months, it's very telling. So I brought my visceral fat down from 26 to 20 over a period of 6 months. It's quite good. And so came my body age down. And I could also measure that my muscle mass increased in exchange for the reduced fat, which is very desirable. And and what is also good is if you have overlapping measures or from different perspectives, like the ketones measuring in the urine, in the blood, and the corresponding acetone in the breath, that gives you extra insights, because all these are different results from the body being in ketosis mode. I also measure my blood glucose. It's also, that was interesting, because on day 2, when I was in the dry fasting, my blood glucose went down from before, when I started on Tuesday morning, the water fasting day, my blood glucose was at 6.6, a bit too high, probably from all the carbohydrates that I have eaten over the weekend, and I should not have eaten. I really should stay away from carbohydrates. But it's so difficult, because in our civilized food there are carbohydrates in everything, and it's difficult to avoid, but at least minimizing would help. So but I found out that my blood glucose went down from 6.6 on Tuesday morning to 5.3 on Wednesday morning, and then it went up to 5.9, especially because I went for an extended walk in my dry fasting day, and the extended walk was at around noontime, and I went some 8 kilometers, 7.5, 8 kilometers in only 1 hour. It was very fast. And I was hoping that I bring down my blood glucose to a value below 5. But instead my blood glucose went up, and there is nothing that could, there is no glucose stored in my body at all. And I don't eat glucose. So the question is, where does this come from? And the GPT told me that my body would generate glucose, because there are some essential body functions that need glucose, so it cannot run on ketones. Interesting. I found it very interesting. And the GPT also told me that I'm not only in ketosis but in full autophagy, means that the body repurposes the bad cells. That's also, by the way, I've lost 30 kg weight in something like 1.5 years, and you wouldn't see many big wrinkles in my body, and that's because the cells of the skin, the much larger skin that I needed 1.5 years ago, the body would repurpose those cells, skin cells that are no longer needed, and that's done in the autophagy phases. And yeah, I was in autophagy, and by fasting I go on autophagy on a weekly basis, and that's good. So now, how does this all fit together? This effect that the body produces blood glucose happens in the liver. So the liver not only converts the free fatty acids that stem from the fat cells of the body into ketone, the liver also converts proteins like those fat cells, those skin cells that are no longer needed, into glucoses. That process is called gluconeogenesis. Yeah, so I learned something entirely new. I didn't know that the body needs some glucose for running, and the GPT told me that I have a very healthy metabolism. Actually, yeah, I start to believe that, because I do this for such a long time, this program of mine, that I believe it must come with some result. So, yeah, it would be dangerous for the body if during exercise, like my 1 hour long walk under the midday sun, equator. I'm in Singapore, as you know, yeah? So the sun is above me. Yeah. And so the liver kept the blood glucose at a healthy level. They say it's between 5.3 and 5.9. I don't know whether I can bring this down. I don't know. We will see. That's my goal. You know, now I'm the result. Yeah, after 2 days fasting, 1 day water fasting and the other day dry fasting at 3 p.m. on the Wednesday, yesterday, my body weight was 102.8. So over the 2 fasting days, I lost 3 kg. And that was, yeah, is a very desirable result. My guess is that I lost about 500 grams fat during that time, which is good. So I believe I can, within the 5 weeks, get below 100 kg body weight. And then even a bit further, if I deplete myself, I can make 97 kg or so. Deplete myself of water and water and the gut, empty the gut. I would be something like 97 kg. That would be an amazing result. And also my metabolic health would increase, because I cannot emphasize enough that to collect as many body data points as you can get. So I'm not only using the body weight and the body composition, like muscle mass and fat, body fat. I'm also measuring my blood pressure, which is very good. I have something like 127 to 77 yesterday. And also I measure the steps walked. Then I measure the blood glucose. I said already that the 3 ways to measure ketones. By the way, the ketones in the urine, they tend to disappear because the body adapts to ketosis, and so over time the process of producing the ketones that you can measure in the urine would be reduced. And also interesting, the ketones in my blood in the dry fasting day, they went down while the blood glucose went up. So the body balances the two. So, and what is remarkable is that the acetone in my breath went up. So I started the dry fasting day with a acetone breath of value of 20, and it went continuously up to 90 on the dry fasting day, which means that I'm really burning fat and the body is in a fat burning mode. But you cannot see it in the blood because part of the energy supply for the body is then done by glucose, which is also produced by the body itself, not taken in. And for me that was a surprising result, and really surprising, because I didn't expect this. So I measured the steps walked with my Oura ring. That's very helpful. And also I'm carrying my mobile phone with me, the smartphone that also comes with a GPS tracker on Google Maps, so I can always gauge how much distance I really walk, because the steps counted by the Oura ring cannot discern between steps that were walked when I do a sports like walking right now, or when I just walk around in my flat from the kitchen to the bathroom and to my study. And of course, for the metabolic health and the cardiovascular health, only those walking steps are counted, should be counted, that are done under some sports condition with an elevated pulse. So on the other hand, actually I could, this is what the Oura app allows, I could define an exercise as walking, and then it would take that under exercise. But actually I don't overdo it with the precision of my data, because what counts is the long-term success that you can see on my body, And it can be measured by the bathroom scales that I have that measure the body composition, but also I have a weightlifting belt as a powerlifter, and I can really see the diameter of my body in the adjustable position of the lock of my weightlifter belt. And that also goes down visibly. And then also my clothing was becoming very baggy, so I can see I need a new set, a new jacket and a new set of shirts for the formal events. So yeah, and once I have all the data together, then I reorganize it into one single AI prompt and put it inside my AI, and I can ask all sorts of questions. But I must say, the big advantage of the AI, I put the link in the description below. The big advantage of the AI is not so much about telling you what has happened and interpreting the final data set. It's more on updating you or me while I'm doing the fasting. So I ask questions like, is it recommended for me to have a walk now? And if yes, how many steps or whatever? And then it would give you some insights of what you can do and what happens to your body, what glucose source is going to be tapped, and whether you're in ketonic mode or not. And that's better than any physicist, medical doctor, or how are they called? I don't know. Internal medicine doctors can do, because the AI can interpret all the data sources, and you can even enter feelings like you feel dizzy or your mouth is dry, and the AI would help you to give you direct advice. I've used that one before during the time of preparing for the latest competition, and it's also my plan to do it for the upcoming competition, because there comes an extra element to that one. While the latest competition that I did was in Singapore, right in front of my house door. The next competition will be in Japan, and that brings a travel element in. And traveling is a bit difficult because, number one, there would be a supply needed for the competition day. And with supply I speak of carbohydrates. Competition day is carbohydrate day. So the goal is to deplete the body from water, and that means that the glucose sources must also be depleted, and the gut must be depleted. And for doing so you need all sorts of things, like a cigar or a sauna, and yeah, in the last competition I made it such that my body weight was just 3 kg or 2.5 kg below the 105 kg at weighing in. And then the evening before I filled up my body with carbohydrates and a little bit of water, so that I had a weigh-in weight of 104.5 or 104.8 kg, which is 200 or 500 grams below the threshold, the allowed threshold. And that was not bad, because I was very strong. My goal for the next competition would be even lower, below 100, so that the week before the competition I can take a substance, I forgot the name. It's something that helps you to recycle the used ATP in the cells immediately at the cell level. Reuse it by replenishing some substance there. It is a natural substance that is generated by the body, but you can of course take supplements in order to increase the level of presence of that substance. I have it at home. I really forgot what's the name. I will write it into the description. But I will speak about it anyway when we come closer to my competition. What is also difficult for the travel is then how to find a place where you can train. Probably is not so critical in my place because my lifted weights are now really low. It's not even a warm-up weight from where I was before in the super heavy weight class. And so noisy here, huh? Yeah. Wonderful view. Actually, the battery of my gimbal is doing well because I put the phone in a balanced position. Then the battery consumption is less. Yeah. I found a colleague online who is into the same journey as I. He's 6 years older than me, lives in Luxembourg. And he gave me very valuable insights also. And I'm exchanging information with him. And when he saw the measurements that I do, he was a bit shocked. He says, "Wow, you measure really everything." And he didn't know yet that I'm producing the data for the AI. So hot. I think about 32 degrees. And then he said, I'm more for discipline. And then this guy's really disciplined. He's an ex-army or police, I'm not so sure, officer. And he's very disciplined. And I mean, I'm also disciplined, right? Because I go for my daily walk, but he even goes further. He explores self-made probiotics, which I want to try. And hats off. But what I believe is the following. There are two extremes. Then there are the ones who only measure, right? And limit their activity to what they can measure. I'm a bit that guy. And then, they become complacent when they have reached a goal so far and rest on their laurels. And then there are the other guys who never measure because they don't believe in measuring. And they believe in discipline. And that also works. Of course, because the natural healing path is much older than ten years or 40 years. The whole traditional Chinese medicine is about natural healing. And they don't even have measurement instruments. All what they do is they count the heart rate, the pulse, and that's all. And they smell what they can smell. So these are very simple measurements, but ultimately they also can be successful. I find you need to combine both. You need to be disciplined. There's no way around that. And there's some set of minimum standards that you need to comply with. And that's mainly for me activity based. And also food wise, stay away from carbohydrates. And then there are measurements, and the more you can measure, the merrier, because that gives you a more detailed advice from the AI. And measuring without using AI, wow, that's difficult, because you need to have a medical knowledge degree, I would say, so that you can interpret all this data. And the AI makes it so much easier, because as I've told you, right? While you, especially for this fasting period, as I'm continuing my journey from the first hour of water fasting to the last minute of the dry fasting, when I take a shower and take my body measurements, the body composition measurements, it would always tell you, as soon as you update with a new measurement, piece of measurement data, the AI would tell you, interpret what has happened so far, so where you are and what you can do. And it's so useful, and it also encourages me to do things like going for a walk at 11 p.m. just to get the 10,000 steps for the day full, which I did. And then I measured the blood glucose and the ketones before and after that, the blood ketones and the acetone in my breath. And it's really, really good, helpful. So the two together make sense. And also it would tell me whether I'm in autophagy or not. And how would you find out? There's no sensor for that. And that makes sense when you have cancer, then that you get yourself into autophagy all the time. It's not sufficient just to assume, because you're having a keto diet, that your body is in autophagy. It's not. And there's no sensor for it. You need to have knowledge about your metabolism and what the input that you provide to the body, namely like load, like walking or strength training, lifting weights, and also the food that you eat, and even the sleeping time has an impact. I believe that an improved data set would also come with information about the sleep quality. So if I had cancer, I would collect all this and focus on my healing, because as I learned during my psychology study, a dead patient doesn't make sense at all. So focus on your life. And I told you about my friend Rudy, right? He died very fast after devastating diagnosis, and he said, "How could that be? I had a keto diet." I said, "Yeah, very simple. I can tell you, maybe the keto diet was not enough. Maybe you cheated with the carbs, the carbohydrates. Maybe you didn't walk. Maybe your body produced very little amounts of ketones." I strongly believe that my friend Rudy could be alive if he had chosen a more measurement-based approach to treat his cancer. Then my other friend from Luxembourg tells me the same thing. His best friend passed away after a very short period of suffering from cancer, and he was his friend. I mean, so they surely talked about metabolic health and how to improve it, and he didn't. And I have here a similar case. A friend of mine, she's 46 years old, and you could see that she has a metabolic syndrome because her body visibly grew. So she's not fat, but oh, where I am walking. Isn't it beautiful? This is Singapore. Continue. Yeah. So she's not fat, but you can see that there is visceral fat because the belly bulbs out a bit, and also you can see the fat under the skin in her face and the neck and the arms. And now comes the deep insight. Deep inside, not deep inside, deep inside. So I'm just interviewing her over WhatsApp about measurement values that she can take herself. And the measurement value was about what's your biggest complaint currently? And she says, I have migraines regular. I say, wow, okay. Migraines is one of the symptoms of metabolic syndrome. It's a metabolic disorder. And it is because the brain cells don't have enough energy. And that's because the mitochondria cannot produce energy, says the motorbike mechanic. And why can the mitochondria not provide enough energy? It's about mitochondrial health. So you need to improve. And so what happens is she is insulin resistant, very likely, but we will find out. And that insulin resistance says that the cells do not react to signals, hormone signals of insulin anymore. So the blood glucose from the blood cannot get into the cells where they are needed for producing energy. In very short words, the brain, despite being enough blood glucose around, the brain cells cannot get that blood glucose into the cells so that brain cells, the mitochondria in the brain cells can produce ATP. It's like having a car with a full petrol tank, or the Americans say gas, a gas tank, full gas tank, and the petrol doesn't reach the engine because the petrol pump or the carburetor is not working. And why is the petrol pump carburetor not working? The petrol pump or the carburetor not working? Because there is a insulin resistance in the body. And the insulin resistance is linked to some fat distribution. So But now what you could do is you get more insulin in the body. You can do that with an injection. Or let me try this. You increase the insulin sensitivity of the body, and that is done with natural medicine. And also with exercise. As you see me, I'm now walking, and the ultimate goal of that walking is to improve my insulin sensitivity. Yeah, so my guess is that she needs to address her insulin resistance, and in order to address it, the first step would be to get some measurement values to find out whether she is insulin resistant. And but I can tell you she is, but we will find out. I will say, see. And then the next question is, if someone is insulin resistant, how to address this? Because, I mean, my first answer would be, well, get into autophagy. But that would require that you get into ketosis. And in order to do so, you need to fast. It is not enough to just change the food. You need to fast. But the fasting would cause migraine. Why is this so? Simply because the body that is not in an insulin sensitive state is not able to switch into ketosis. Ketosis is where the body sends signals to the fat cells. I need more energy. The fat cells would then release, I believe, triglycerides to the or free fatty acids, which can then be converted into ketones by the liver. The body isn't able to do so, because if you treat your body all the time with carbohydrates, then there's no training for switching into that. And that would even further deplete the brain cells from fuel. So you cannot just switch to fasting, it's impossible. The first thing would be to get the body used to use fats as a basis for fueling the cells. So what I would do, actually it's not what I would do, this is what the GPT, my GPT suggests. Number one, remove the carbohydrates fully. That means no more rice, no more bread, no more potato, no more noodles, no more pasta, no more sugar, very bad, no more, you name it. And replace them with good fats. Good fats is dairy fat from grass-fed beef, not the grain-fed beef, grass-fed, because that comes with omega-3. The grain fat has a lot of omega-6 and less omega-3. Then the next one would be switch to olive oils, switch to cold-pressed coconut oils, all unrefined, unprocessed, on the good fats. And then also switch to protein and fiber. And that must be done for a period of at least 4 weeks, maybe 6. And that would train the body to produce energy from fat. And the energy is ketones. That would also train the body to produce the blood glucose, the gluconeogenesis. And that's also important for health. And after 4 to 6 weeks, I would start intermittent fasting. First, for 12 to 14 hours fasting means that you can eat 10 to 12 hours per day. And then extend until you have reached 16 hours of fasting, maybe even 18 hours of fasting, and only an eating window of 6 to 8 hours. And just make sure that you are in the ketosis by measuring that one regularly. By the way, that would also help to treat cancer. That's my greeting to the cancer patients that are watching. And after, let's say, 3 months in total, I would start with the first water fasting day. And maybe, just skip the eating window of the intermittent fasting by only drinking water, tea, and coffee, unsweetened, of course. And then do this until you can see a reduction of the ketones in the urine. And then I would start, because that means that the body adapts to this fasting. And then I would start and throw in a dry fasting day immediately after the water fasting. And not a whole day, of course, maybe half a day. And then at one point in time, you are where I am. You've lost 20% of your body weight. More, I lost almost 25% of my body weight since I started. And during all this, daily walking, 10,000 steps, and also 2 times per week or 3 times strength training. Yeah, I'm now back. I walked 45 minutes. That's the plan for all the people watching. I'm back where I started, and I believe I clocked something like 7,000 steps. So together with later walking to the gym, that's more than enough for today. I will now get a nice meal because I need some energy for the strength training later. That's it. See you. Goodbye.